Welcome to our new Maryville College Athletics podcast, Tartan Talk. I'm your host, Connor Gahagan, and I'm excited to bring this to the Maryville College community. For our first episode, I'm thrilled to introduce someone I've known for quite some time. He played quarterback for Maryville College in 2008 and 2009, passing for 1,129 yards and 9 touchdowns in the 2008 season. Following graduation, he became the youngest assistant coach on George Quarles' Maryville High School Football staff, before being named to replace Quarles after the 2016 season. He went on to win the state championship in 2017 and 2019. Help me in welcoming Coach Derek Hunt.
Thank you for having me, Connor.
Coach, let's just start off. Following graduation, you went to Tennessee. What happened there, and what made you decide to come back home to Maryville?
Yeah, so my senior year, I thought I was done playing football. I mean, I had played since I was 7, so I thought I was ready to kind of take on a new chapter, and you were going to do that anyway anytime you leave high school and go to college. A lot of my friends were going to Tennessee, and so I decided, all right, I'll go with them, and in a lot of ways kind of let them make my decision for me, and got over there, and it just wasn't a good fit for me, you know. And so for some people it was perfect, and for a lot of my friends they loved it, but I just felt a desire to have a closer knit community, and I really missed playing football. I missed my teammates and coaches, and you know, I think it was always going to be hard to replicate what I experienced at Maryville High School, but I reached out to Coach Tony Iruli at the time, who was the head coach here, and he had told me that they had kind of recruited me out of high school, so you know, had told me there'd be a spot for me if I wanted to do that, and so I did. So that was something that I'd actually decided after my first semester at Tennessee. Even though I stayed for an entire year, I commuted the second half of the year so I could be at Maryville College and work out and do the things that, you know, that the football team was doing in the off season. So that was something that I was really excited about at the time, and man, what a great decision it was for me.
It's almost like that itch never left you, and it seems like it didn't leave you after college either, because you stepped right into coaching. How long after graduation did you start coaching? Yeah,
so I had some injuries my sophomore year, or I guess my second season. It would have been my junior year academically, but I had 4 years of eligibility. So my sophomore football season had some injuries that kind of kept me off the field for about half the season, I'd say, and then just kind of felt like, well, number one, I loved football. There's no question about that, and the coaching staff at Maryville College was fortunate enough to kind of keep me around and let me do some things that maybe players wouldn't normally get to do. And then the following year, my senior year, I was probably on the same path, do the same thing, but Coach Quarles had reached out to me and offered me a position or a spot on the high school coaching staff. So I took that while I was a senior at Maryville College because I wasn't playing anymore my last year. So, but I loved it, and that's kind of, I always felt like God kind of had his hand on me during that first year in college, because I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, you know. So then I figure out I miss football, and I come back and play for 2 years, and I don't regret any of that. That was just so much fun. I met my wife at Maryville College. I was super involved with the FCA here, and just met some of my very, very best friends still today here at Maryville College, and have so many stories with teammates that I played with here, and I coached with some of my former teammates at Maryville College, and it was just the greatest 3 years I could have asked for. Yeah. You know, as far as what I was looking for and what I needed, and my mentors, some of my professors and coaches. I loved every second of being here at Maryville College, and like I said, it's one of the greatest decisions I've ever made, and that kind of fell into my lap, but. I don't regret it for 1 second. You
know, you mentioned wanting that close community and kind of not knowing what you had for you. Had what God had for you going in your life. And I think that's kind of one thing that's special about Maryville College, being that it's a church-related campus. You come in and you're just able to figure out what you really want to do for your life. I know that's really been the case for me. I've been able to come in, help out with the athletics department, do kind of stuff, and just figure out what I want to do for the rest of my life. How do you think that being able to come here and the church relatedness of the college, how do you think that's played an impact in your life?
Well, it's played a huge impact in my life. Everybody goes through, peaks and valleys in their life, and Maryville College, it was a huge peak for me coming out of a valley. I felt like, and just from some personal stuff and work, my family and everything, and then to come to Maryville College and have the support system that was built in place, not only through football but through FCA. I got involved in FCA, and by my junior year, I was the president of FCA here at Maryville College, and we just had such a core group of friends, and we were close knit, and would take trips together and would go to camps together, in the summer and the fall, and so many athletes, from all different sports, male and female. It was just so much fun. We just hung out. We were with each other all the time, whether it be in the library or the cafeteria or here in the athletic center. So, yeah, it was just an amazing experience for me. And so the fact that you could, that I grew my faith and was able to do that here at Maryville College while also getting to play football was pretty special.
Yeah, it's great. You mentioned you met your wife here, Jessica.
Yeah.
Would have been Jessica Peterson when she went here.
That's right.
Inducted into the Wall of Fame 2 years ago. Was there any special story about how you guys met? She was a soccer player, football player.
Yeah. So we met. I mean, Maryville College is a small campus, so especially when you're playing sports and you get to know most of the athletes, no matter what sport they play. But so obviously we met on campus through classes and stuff, and then we got to know each other really well through FCA though, because she was on the leadership team as well. And then, so I think we officially, became a couple or started dating my junior year, and dated a couple years, and then she, so for those last couple years, I got to watch her play that last season a lot because I wasn't playing football. Seasons were at the same time. So when I was playing here, and she was playing, it was hard for me to get to watch her very much because we were, you travel and we have games and practices, so you really don't ever get to go to the soccer games. It was hard to anyway, but I thoroughly enjoyed, not coming from a soccer background, but I thoroughly enjoyed getting to watch her play for Maryville College, and obviously she's one of the best players to have ever played, on the women's team here, and I think she still has the record for career goals and tied for assists, which is just pretty remarkable. And so that's obviously getting inducted into the Maryville College Wall of Fame is a huge deal. And so we just have such great memories here, not only from our friends but also with each other. We got engaged out on the soccer field. One of the things, we would train together in the summers, when I was getting ready for football and she was getting ready for soccer in the preseason. And so one of the things we would do is we would always play one-on-one soccer out on the field, and Coach Pepe would always allow that, which was really cool. And so that was our thing. We had fun doing that, and we did it all, all through college. And so we were doing that, after we had graduated, and that's when we got engaged. So it was just a special moment, but we also got married on campus, so to say that Maryville College has a special place in our family, is probably an understatement. It's a big deal to us.
So there's just a lot of, I'd say, athletic greatness in your family, and you've got a couple kids, right?
We got 4 kids.
4 kids.
Yeah.
Are they kind of following in your guys' footsteps?
Well, so the athletic greatness is, if there is any, it's all from her. It's not from me. So she gets all the credit for that. But yeah, we have 4 kids. Our oldest his name's Cooper, and he loves football, and basketball and baseball. I mean, he's eat up with about everything. And and then we've got 2 girls, Carolina and Colby, and then our youngest son's Carson. So they're just now getting of age where they're getting into it. But for Cooper, for sure, as a 9-year-old, is eat up with athletics and sports. And he's come, I brought him to Maryville College athletic events, and he loves it. And so he's old enough now to know, all the stories of mom and dad, and he kind of probably rolls his eyes now at this point every time we pass Maryville College, because hey, this is where mom and dad, and so he's like, I know, but no, he enjoys it, and I think he'll be up here. Loves Maryville College basketball camp, just adores it. That's his favorite camp of the year, and Coach P does a phenomenal job.
Yeah,
so,
he does.
We're just tickled to death every time we get to do that.
This season, we've got the new court in. Probably something he'll love to see. A lot of renovations on campus.
Yep.
Football, they went 8-2. A lot of athletic success. Just coming back and watching those games and seeing all this success, how does it make you feel?
Oh, well, super proud. I love what Coach Fox is doing here. He's a phenomenal person. Great football coach, even a better person, and really, really good friend of mine. And so he makes Maryville College so much fun to pull for, And so, I just, being a former football player here, and, the camaraderie that I feel like all football players have. I know there's probably 6 or 7 Maryville College graduates on the football staff at Maryville High School, and so that's something that we all share in common. But you just feel like anytime there's a lot of guys who I know that played football here way before I did, but you still kind of share that connection in a lot of ways. It's just special. It's just different, and it's something that I'd never felt before, and it's a fraternity that I think means a lot to me. And anytime, even with guys that I don't get to talk to a lot that I played with here, when you see them, it's just special. It's just different, and I love seeing some of my former teammates, and many of them were fantastic players. You talk about like Wesley Idolette, Kyle Chooning. I mean, some of those names, those are All-American type players that I was fortunate enough to be on the same team with, and it's just so special to think about. And so, and then getting to coach every day with some of my former teammates is a lot of fun too, because inevitably some of those old stories get brought back up, and they're probably stretched a little bit, every time you tell a story. Maybe it was a longer run or a longer pass, but no, it's so much fun, and that's something that I'll keep with me forever.
Do you have any of those stories you could share with us today?
Well, my favorite memory at Maryville College probably was my very first game that I played. We were on the road at Huntington, and unfortunately we didn't win the game, but it was kind of a back and forth. I think we lost 42-35, but Wesley Idolette, so it was my first game at quarterback, and it was Wesley Idolette's first game. He was a true freshman, and I was coming in as a freshman essentially, and so we connected I think 3 times for touchdowns, and so it was a special moment for me, because it was kind of like, hey, this was a lot of fun. I wish we'd have won, but this was a lot of fun. It was something that I wish, I didn't waste a year. But it all happens for a reason, and that's what I came to Maryville College for, was to, to get that experience, to build the relationships, and so that was I just remember thinking on the bus ride home, being disappointed because we didn't win. And coming from Maryville High School, you get used to winning. You got used to that. But at the same time, I just had such a high dose of satisfaction. Like, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And you don't ever know how it's going to go that first time until you get out there. That was my first ever college football game, but just felt like, all right, I can do this. Because I didn't know. Obviously, even though I was confident in myself, I had doubts and fears. What if it doesn't work out, and what if I end up back at Tennessee? But I remember thinking after that game, this is where I belong, and it feels right. And then to be able to share it with great people and players like a Wesley Idolette, it was just made it that much more special.
So I know almost right before you got the head coaching job, you were my math teacher. Was education always kind of the plan for you?
It definitely wasn't. I majored in economics here at Maryville College, and I'll never forget David Ellis was the offensive line coach at Maryville High School for a long time, and kind of a legend at Maryville High School. Well, he is, there's no doubt. But he lived in the same neighborhood that I grew up in, and so I think the summer after my junior year, I was pretty much done with all my core econ classes. Mm-hmm. So I was going to ride off into the sunset my senior year and take, fly fishing with Coach Fernandez and athletic coaching with Coach Lambert. I mean, I had it set up pretty nice. And so, but he was like, what are you going to do, in a couple of years when you graduate? I'm like, I really don't know. And he said, have you ever thought of teaching? And I thought maybe, he's like, well, if you teach, obviously you could coach football. And he's like, I think you'd be pretty good at it. You should consider it. And if you do consider it, you should try to add math or science to your degree, because if you do that, you're guaranteed a job. And I'm like, okay. So I was pretty good at math, so I went back to my supervisor and changed my whole schedule basically for my senior year, and took as many math classes as I could possibly cram in. And so I ended up minoring in math and adding that to my degree. And so I didn't have a teaching certificate, but it led to my first teaching job, and I ended up getting my master's in education literally as soon as I graduated from Maryville College. I started that and was able to teach, within 12 months. And so that's what led to my first seventh grade, my first teaching job, my first real job post-college was a seventh grade math job at Montgomery Ridge Intermediate School. And I was there for, I think, 5 or 6 years, loved every second of it. I still see a lot of my former students, and it was just so great. And obviously, when Coach Quarles left Maryville High School to go to Furman, and I was promoted to the head coach, I moved over to the high school. And I taught math for a year there before I went into the central office and do administration. But I really miss seventh grade math. I do. I loved seventh graders. It was so much fun, just the interaction that you have with them. And, it's something that I'll certainly hold in highest regard.
What was the feeling like when you got the call that they wanted you to replace Coach Quarles?
Yeah, so kind of a cool story, and I've shared this a couple times, but it obviously means a lot to me. But when Coach Quarles left, I think Coach Quarles had probably laid the groundwork that this needs to be kept in-house, because there were so many phenomenal coaches on our staff, and even former head coaches. And so Greg Roach was our principal at the time, Maryville High School, and then Dr. Mike Winstead, assistant, who is the director of school still today, was then. So they interviewed every coach on staff and had to sit down, not interviewed, but they had a meeting with every coach on staff, and just to talk about what they thought should happen, and where the program was and where it should go. And because anytime you lose a Coach Quarles, he's the greatest football coach in the history of the state of Tennessee, and so you're not just going to make a rash decision. So I think they were wise to sit down with every staff, and I'm sure they asked a lot of similar questions. But one of the questions I got was, "Hey, would you be interested in the job?" And I said, listen, I'm super. I mean, it's a dream of mine to get to coach at Maryville High School. To be the head coach would be a dream come true. So but I enjoyed what I was doing. I was, quarterback's coach, and got to help Coach Quarles with the offense quite a bit. And so, but I told him, I'm also the youngest coach on staff. So I was 26. So I just said, I know my role. If you decide, if somebody else comes in and takes it, or if it's somebody promoted from within, I'm happy to continue to do what I'm doing and help them in whatever way, shape, or form I can. But he called me back. It was over Christmas break, so I was actually in Ohio, which is where Jess's parents lived at the time, and said, "Hey, we'd like to meet one more time with you and kind of do a formal interview about this coaching job." And so I was super excited, and I drove back down the next day and met with them. And when I got in there, I kind of felt like, my assistant coaches had interviewed for me. It was a very humbling experience, and there really wasn't a formal interview. It was more like, hey, our track record speaks for itself at Maryville, and what the coaches have said kind of speaks for itself. So we'd like to offer you the job, and that was just super special for me. And that's a day I'll certainly never forget. I remember not sleeping for about 3 or 4 days, or at least really well, just because of the pure adrenaline and excitement that I had to get to try to lead a storied program with so much tradition, and then to go out that first year and win a state championship was kind of storybook for me, and it's almost like, what next, because the expectations are so high. And of course, it's ebbed and flowed since then, and just like everything. But man, what an experience and what a ride it's been, and hopefully it'll continue for a while longer. Yeah,
it was certainly fun watching that first year. You were the coach. My freshman year, getting to cheer you guys on from up in the stands up in Cookeville. I don't think they play there anymore, do they?
No, they're in Chattanooga now, but it'll change, moving forward. It always does.
So you mentioned how high the expectations are. 7-5 last year with early exit from the playoffs. How's the team looking to rebound this year?
Yeah, I mean, something I would say that's added fuel to the fire for sure. Had a rough year last year with some injuries, and of course we were replacing a lot from the year before, but we lost probably our best football player week one with a broken leg, and starting linebacker and running back. Gage Ledoux's at Air Force. He's at Air Force now, playing there, doing great. Then we lose our starting quarterback week 3. So that was just kind of the beginning of the adversity that we experienced last year, and so we just kind of felt like each week we were having to remake who we were and try to find another identity, and really week to week we're just clinging for dear life, trying to find a way to win a football game. We definitely got some momentum towards the end of the year. Beat Alcoa, which was a huge win for us, and we're certainly the underdogs going into that game, But as big, as much fun as that win was for us, we turned around and lost to Farragut the next week to end the year, and so certainly left a sour taste in our mouths. But then played 2 great playoff games, got wins, and then got to go down to Bradley in the quarterfinals and played probably one of the best players I've ever seen, Boo Carter, in high school football. He was a phenomenal athlete. He'll have a chance to start this year for the University of Tennessee as a freshman, and so he was the real deal, and they beat us that night. But you learn a lot through seasons like that, and at Maryville, we want to win every game we play. There's no question about that. Expectations are super high, and the community, for better or worse, probably feels like you should win every game too. But life's not about just about all your successes, and it's easy to sit there and talk about all the wins and stuff, but it's you learn more about yourself in the failure, and how you respond to those failures. And so I learned so much, about our program, our team, who our coaches are last year when you experience real adversity in football, and also who your friends are, and who's supporting you because they love you, and then also who maybe just supports you when you're winning, and so you learn a lot during tough times, and hopefully we can bounce back. And do it with great energy, positive spirits, and I know our kids are hungry, and we want to perform really, really well and at a high level, and we're going to have an opportunity to do that this year because we're playing the same teams. That's what's exciting, is we get to play the same schedules last year. It's going to be just as tough, and so hopefully we can show some marked improvement.
Jamboree's coming up, Friday?
That's right.
What's practice looking like heading into that?
Yeah, so we have a scrimmage this week against Baylor, who's probably one of the most athletic teams in the state, and then we Jamboree Friday. We're still getting after it. So this is the last official week of preseason. We're still getting after it in practice, but here it is. We start the game weeks next week, and it's going to be great.
One last thing for you, Coach, before we end it. We talk a lot on campus about who our biggest rival is, Huntington, Berry. In your opinion, biggest rival?
Well, so personally, I think it's changed. There's been eras of who used to be E&H, used to be Emory and Henry, back in the there's guys who were older than me that played here, and they would say by far, that was our biggest rival. I do think that that center has always, for me, I wanted to beat center more than anybody. But it's more out of a respect thing. I think that they're such a great program in school, and they're good at everything, basketball, football. So, but when I was playing, it was Huntington, and there really was, because they were kind of the standard.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to beat them so bad. Enjoyed beating a lot of teams in our conference at the time, but that was one that I never got to experience, and beating Huntington. And so for me personally, it was Huntington. I would say center was a very close second. Obviously, E&H back in the day, that rivalry's gone because they've moved on to different divisions. But back in the day, everybody I talked to said it was E&H.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming out.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. This was fun.